Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host and contributor to Football Night in America. Also, Son of Mine, the sequel to Father of Mine, released on September 3rd, available pre-order on Amazon. Mike, kind enough to join us on vacation. So, Mike, you know it's important if I'm interrupting your vacation to ask you what it means that Caleb Williams doesn't have an agent right now.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean much because he's using someone, by all appearances, to negotiate with the Bears on his behalf. He said over the weekend he's not handling it. His lawyers are. The problem is because he's not represented by an NFLPA certified agent, they have to be very careful how they go about communicating with the Bears. I asked the league about the situation. They said the Bears told them, we are negotiating with Caleb Williams, even though Caleb says he's not handling it. Now, one of the common devices when this goes on is to set up a dummy email account that is supposedly the player, but it's actually one of his representatives communicating with the team. Regardless, there's no contract. I mean, others have gotten these deals done. There are 5 guys unsigned right now. He's the only one who's not represented by an agent. The other 5 guys in the first round, I should say, the other 4 aren't signed either. And there isn't much to haggle about in this day and age for NFL rookies. So the whole thing's weird. But, yeah, it's awkward to say the least when Caleb Williams is saying, I'm not handling it, and the Bears are telling the league he is handling it.
But aren't these draft picks slotted? Does Caleb Williams, what is left to negotiate?
There's 3 things, Dan. One, when do they get their signing bonus money? Some teams will want to give you half of it, for example, within 30 days, and then the other half up to a year from now, which is money in the bank vault for the team, and they earn interest off of it. And the more they can do that, the more money they ultimately make by holding that cash back. Mm-hmm. Number 2, what does it take for the future guarantees to void? What will the player do to allow the team to say, we're voiding the guarantees, and then we're going to cut you because you ended up being one of the players who inevitably was a bust? Because we know of the 32 guys taken in round 1, up to half of them aren't going to work out, and the team might have an escape hatch if the player does something he shouldn't do, rip up the remaining guarantees. Because we hear about guaranteed contracts in the NFL all the time. For the first round of the draft, all 4 years of every player picked are fully guaranteed. So you're making that investment blind as to whether or not the guy's going to work out. So if he gets in trouble, if he gets suspended, whatever it is, they can haggle over the contours of the language that would allow the team to say, we're out, guarantees voided. And then the last one is, if they do cut the guy with remaining guarantees left, can he double dip with another team? That's the offset language. If I get cut and you owe me $20 million, I keep that 20 and I make whatever I get somewhere else. The team will say, we want a credit for whatever you make somewhere else. Those are the 3 issues: signing bonus, guarantee void, offset language. I'm trying to find out, is there something else I'm missing? But historically, since 2011, those have been the 3 sticking points for rookie contracts.
Is it just a coincidence that you have Caleb Williams and fellow Bear first-rounder Rome Odunze also unsigned?
Well, it's possible that Odunze's camp wants to see what they do with Caleb Williams as it relates to the signing bonus or void language, whatever it is. Maybe Caleb Williams is holding up the rest of the guys in round 1. J.J. McCarthy, the Vikings quarterback, I'm told, and I haven't written this yet at PFT, but I'm about to, the Vikings haven't really engaged much with McCarthy's camp. And the thinking is, he's a quarterback, Caleb Williams a quarterback, let's see what Caleb Williams does, let's see what terms he gets, and then we'll try to get the same as the 10th overall pick versus the 1st overall pick. So the Vikings have 2 guys in round 1 unsigned, the Bears have 2 guys in round 1 unsigned, and it's a little weird that of the 5 guys, 4 of them come from 2 teams.
How many quarterback contracts will be extended by the time we start the season, in your opinion?
Well, I'm watching Dak Prescott. I don't think he's going to get an extension before the start of the season. I think it would have happened by now. Matthew Stafford, Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Love are the other 3 hot spots. And it'll be interesting to see who holds out. You know, you rarely have a veteran quarterback who's under contract hold out of training camp. It's typically a rookie who hasn't signed a contract yet who would hold out. But Stafford has been agitating for more guaranteed money beyond this year because he's concerned they were going to dump him after this year. And then when Jared Goff gets $53 million per year and Stafford's at $40, it's easy for Stafford to say something's wrong with this picture. We don't know what the Dolphins are going to do with Tua. I think Jordan Love is the most likely to get done before the Packers convene training camp. I haven't heard anything yet to suggest they won't get it done, but I'm watching Tua and what will he do. if they don't give him what he wants. And I'm just kind of keeping a general eye of curiosity on Matthew Stafford and the Rams, because this has been hanging around since April and they still haven't done a new deal for him.
When should we start to take the Devonte Adams being traded or pairing up with Aaron Rodgers again as a serious story?
I mean, there's a ton of smoke out there, and I really don't know how to go about cutting through it, because you could search back through quotes and tweets and stories, and it looks like Devonte Adams is content with the Raiders. And this is, as a practical matter, his last year under his current contract. There's some big phony numbers on the back end next year and the year after that drove his average up, but I doubt that any team is going to honor. So this is basically it for him with the Raiders. And if he wakes up one day and says, I don't think this team is going to get to where it needs to be, could you please do something and move on, and I could be traded to the Jets if the Jets even want to do that? I mean, I wonder how much of this is just players talking among themselves, and if it ever would come to the table of the people making the decisions in New York, if they would even do it. Because I think they've decided to get out of the Aaron Rodgers friends and former teammates business after what a disaster it was last year. But Devonte Adams is a different story altogether. But you look at their receiving core, do they need him? Can they make the financial investment? It really would, restart the whole Jets hype that we saw last year if they would get him. But for now, I'm just kind of like, let's see where this goes. It might just be talk among players. We got to see if the teams are willing to do anything.
The big settlement with Sunday Ticket, the NFL, if I subscribe to Sunday Ticket and part of this lawsuit, how much money do fans, should they expect to get out of this settlement?
Well, there's 12 seasons in all that are tied up, and I assume that if this money, and it's all pending on appeal, the NFL is going to fight this tooth and nail all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. It'll take multiple more years, Dan, before it gets resolved. But if at the end of the day, that $14 billion judgment, we've heard the number 4.7, but the moment the verdict becomes a judgment, an official judgment, it automatically gets tripled under the antitrust laws to $14 billion. And I kind of did the rough math. Probably $5,000-$6,000 if you had it the whole time, maybe even a little bit more than that. So this isn't your typical class action where you get coupons or 50 cents for bus fare when it's all said and done. There could be real money flowing back to people, and people need to understand what this case was about, because I don't think it was covered the way it should have been. The customers got screwed on this deal. The NFL deliberately overcharged through DirecTV. The NFL told DirecTV, this is the allegation that the jury accepted, you got to charge a very high price so that a lot of the people will just say, I don't want this. I'm going to watch the games available on my local CBS and Fox affiliate, because CBS and Fox were fanatical. That was the word used by Steve Bornstein, who used to run NFL media, fanatical about Sunday Ticket not cannibalizing their ratings. So the NFL wanted this thing priced so high so fans wouldn't have the choice. They didn't want people to use Sunday Ticket. That's what the case is about. So there was a lot of money spent by the people who really wanted those games, Dan, and they may ultimately, it's still a few years away, but they may ultimately get a lot of that money back.
Thank you, Mike. Sorry to interrupt your vacation.
Great to talk to you, Dan.
That's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host. You have your vacation, then he says goodbye to his family because he doesn't have a vacation then until after the Super Bowl.